I'm a recovering addict now for about 20-something years. And of course, I will always be an addict. And don't ever think you don't still think about it, because you always will. And I will die being an addict. And the hardest thing I ever came off of was cigarettes. Most people go to treatment, adult people, because they're going to lose something. Their house, their job, their kids, their wives. And unfortunately, with adolescents, most of them are court ordered, or they're here like these boys are, because they're made to be here. Because you know, as a teenager, you are invincible. And no amount of scary stories or real life stories that you tell them, they think it's not going to happen to me. And what is so sad, maybe 1 out of 200 will actually not use again. Maybe. I don't even know if it would be that high. That's what's so sad. And that's in all society, not just somebody coming through a treatment program. I don't know what else you want me to say. I know it's a disease, and it's a family disease. It affects the entire family, not just the person using. You play a role in that family, and most with addiction, it takes it's genetic, it's biopsychosocial, the environment you're raised in, you inherit it, and the people that you have with. I mean, a friend just called. He has a disease, and he was in recovery. He hadn't used drugs in a long while. He has a disease now you're going to get something wrong with you. Hepatitis, AIDS, nerve damage, muscle damage, something's going to happen if you use drugs, always. His skin, the sheath on his nerves is deteriorating. So of course it's very painful. And they put him on OxyContin, which is a real strong opiate. Well, of course he's an addict, he's addicted to it anyway. But if he wasn't an addict, he would still be physically addicted to it, but it wouldn't affect him if he wasn't an addict so much as it does an addict. I don't know how to explain it. His tolerance is going to be a lot quicker. It's going to require a lot more of it. They're finding in research that people that are addicts, doctors are scared of them. They're scared to prescribe them pain medication even if they need it. What they need to be prescribing is extended release. My name's Kim Hart. I work at Tennessee Children's Home as the alcohol and drug counselor. But a good alcohol and drug counselor has to have passion. And it seems the best alcohol and drug counselors are people in recovery. But I think it takes 2 different types to work in a treatment center or a treatment setting, because it seems addicts thrive better in chaos, and non-addicts thrive better when everything is calm. And when everything is calm for an addict, you get bored. And when everything's chaotic for a non-addict, they don't like it. So it takes both to do a good A&D program. Most of them, thank goodness, are not addicts. They're abusers. I do have some that have already crossed that line into addiction. And most of them have been in and out of already treatment programs. And right now it's like I'm just trying to teach them how not to relapse and to keep basically from killing themselves. Unfortunately, it'll be a large majority of them that will not stop. They're going to leave, but I think a lot of them will be hopefully safer. But they will admit, most of them will keep using pot especially. And of course they're legalizing it everywhere. But alcohol's legal now. And it is the killer, in the age group from 15 to 24, alcohol is the number one killer, alcohol-related deaths. So, and of course these boys are smart enough to know that, and you've got a lot of them that are thinking that they should make marijuana legal. The majority of these boys in here related to drugs is because they failed a urine drug screen for marijuana. Very few are into the more serious drugs like cocaine or your opiates. Or crystal meth, which I have a few that have tried crystal meth, but the majority it is marijuana or alcohol. And a lot of them don't drink. One boy I have has never drank. He's 17 years old, which is amazing in itself. He smokes pot. So. The reality of addiction in adolescence is the majority of adolescents are not usually going to quit using, I don't care how many treatment programs they're in, until they actually want to. That's the reality of it. Their families can start educating themselves through Al-Anon, and that's the best way to help your child, is educate yourself. The entire family needs treatment, not just the person using, because it affects the whole family. And in an addiction family, you have roles, survival roles. And I would love for us to start a family program at Tennessee Children's Home, because that's where it has to start. Treatment needs to start. With the example was, there was a young man, he turned 18 in here, and he had told me, I'm not going to quit using, I have no intention, which unfortunately is the majority, because kids are invincible, or they think they are. I did at that age. And I had met with him and told him if he did not change some things about his life, the way he was living, or even using drugs, because he had no intention of quitting, and I knew it, he would be dead in 6 months. His father called me 8 months later, and he had died. As an adolescent, when you leave a treatment program, you're going right back out there. Who are you going to hang around? Because a lot of times these kids have made such bad names for themselves, the good kids that don't use, aren't going to have anything to do with them. Well, then they have to stay away from their old using friends, so they have no friends. And here you are, 16, 17 years old in high school, and you really have, I mean, what are you going to do? Because that's the time that you have friends and you want to be social. I encourage the AA meetings or NA, and unfortunately, there is none hardly for teenagers in rural areas. So they have to go with the older people, and that's sad too. Of course, young people can start their own little meetings, but that's the reality of it. Then you don't belong anywhere. You can't run with your old friends. You can't. The other ones ain't going to have anything to do with you. So where are you going to go? That's why I tell them to go to the support groups. And I try to introduce them while they're here to at least AA, to try to take them to at least a meeting just to see how it's going to be. And it's hard to know if they're going to continue going, because with our boys, if they have parents, they may not have transportation. They may not have any way to get there. I mean, these kids have a lot of roadblocks. As to where people out there, if they have children like this, may have more access to stuff. And there is a whole lot of kids out there that use. These just happen to get caught. with kids the signs of addiction or abuse is with me, and I can really go by me, thank goodness I didn't have a child that really used, is I had made really good grades in school. My grades started dropping. My friends started changing. I started changing. The way I looked started changing. The way I dressed. My secret talks on telephones. Trying to get out of the house. Sneaking out of the house. My whole life, I went from being like a little straight A student to a majorette to sneaking out my window. But my parents, they both worked, and bless my mother's heart, she noticed I was different, but addicts are such good liars. I always had an excuse. I would suggest parents search their children's rooms, listen to those phone calls, especially meet with teachers, see how their work's doing in school. Look in their purses, look in their billfolds, if you have to secretly at first. Or do an intervention. If it gets so bad, get your family members to actually do an intervention. And I would be happy to help anybody that needs that kind of help to do an intervention.